And yes, as you say, I mean, this is a big thing that I've been sat with, because it's kind of like a reality split. When things are going well, you're like, you know, are things going to get worse? Because you're kind of insulated from it. And then you get these glimpses and you hear these talks, and it's just like, we're in a very shaky time. Rather than me saying climate change is definitely going to happen, and food shortages will definitely happen, or wars will definitely happen, because that can feel like too much. If I held them as a possibility, how would that make me change the way I am in the world? So it's the process of living into that reality compared to the, this is a fact and I need to panic. Yeah. And as I sit with that, and that's freed up a lot of anxiety, and it's more like, if I take this seriously and I start to take care of myself physically, if I learn some things that are beneficial in terms of what I'm eating or the food that I'm growing, obviously I'm going to learn a lot of permaculture when I go back to the UK. If I live more in the moment and say the things I need to say to the people around me, because God knows when. Well, whether climate change ends the world or not, maybe that's going to make me a fundamentally better human being, compared to I'm just going to sit down and continue binge watching Netflix and just pretending it's not happening, which was a really terrible myth or process anyway, you know? And I guess that's something that I've been working with, because, you know, we've been talking about climate change and I speak to a lot of people who are just overwhelmed and anxious. We don't know, which is what we were talking, we don't know what's going to happen. Everything might, you know, the world might just stabilise itself in 3 years and we just go on as normal. Or there's some technological innovation and everything's fine. Or not, we don't know. How do we want to act and respond, knowing that we don't know what the future is? And I guess that brings the power then back to us, and we get to ask questions about how we're living our life. Is again something that I've been thinking about recently. Yeah.
That's really beautiful. Like bringing in that not knowing in a way that produces agency.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I will be in right relationship with that, whatever the outcome is, because I'm going to ground in it as a possibility. And I just want to sort of go on top of that and say, like, also to be careful with the imaginal. Like, I think it's very important to go through that tragic stage of like, oh, really feeling this, all of this could happen. Totalitarianism could happen. It has happened. You know, we don't have to delve too much into the imaginal, because we can just look back 50 years or 70 years.
Yeah, exactly.
That's when millions of people were enduring incredibly awful suffering over a long period of time. But to become attached to the tragedy is also a failure of a relationship with not knowing. To know that it's going to be a disaster is hubris. To not know is a place of possibility. And I think from that place we can also then begin to play with the imaginal. And I think when we find more contentment in not knowing here, in the present, when we're actually trying to cultivate a beautiful life here, in the present, in true relationship with the tragedy of life, of our own lives, the thought and the imaginal and the world that is created from our instrument is going to be more beautiful. And the possibility will be created alchemically here between us, between the other people that we're in dialogue with, between the art makers and the visionaries and the diligent organizers and all of those people.